Hey everyone, this is Mathew V, and you are watching The Music Enthusiast.
Hi, I'm Sarah from the Music Enthusiast, and today I'm here with Mathew V. How are you?
I am doing so good. How are you doing?
So good. I am super excited to be chatting with you. I mean, I've been following you for years, like I told you before. So, my first question for you is what was the first thing you listened to today?
What was the first thing that I listened to today? I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay, so I actually don't even need to look it up because I can tell you off the top of my head. I have a Shania Twain cover coming out tonight,
Yeah.
and I've been listening to my version so much through the mixing process and the production process, and I was like, I feel like I need to go back and like dive into the OG catalog and really realize like what started this whole thing for me. So I was listening to the entire album of "Come On Over" by Shania Twain, which I think is the best album of all time. And so I was walking down the street with it in like in my own music video. Whenever I have headphones and walking down the street, like I'm like in my own music video. I would hate to see what people see on the outside looking in, but I was definitely having one of those moments this morning.
What a main character moment though. Like Shania Twain like, walking down the street, like
Absolutely. I was very much in my own movie. I do feel strongly, and I wish that I was in a situation for many aspects that I could just call Shania Twain and give her this advice. But you know how, like, Mamma Mia is a Broadway musical and it's a movie with the music of ABBA? I feel like Shania Twain's music would lend so well to that situation. So I'm putting it out there in the universe. And if she needs someone for casting, I'm also promoting myself for that role as well. Because I have tons of practice walking down the street lip syncing to Shania Twain.
I mean, amazing. Shania Twain, if you're watching, hi. We'd love to collaborate with you, both of us. I'd love to
Yes.
see you too. That's
Absolutely.
I mean, speaking on this new track being released tomorrow, you've been singing Shania Twain like since you were like a little kid, like practically a baby. So, I mean, now releasing a cover of Shania Twain, like how are you feeling about that sort of like evolution?
It's really cool and honest. And I think I had that moment recently. Like I posted some videos on my social media of like me as a toddler singing Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and like from this moment on. And my parents would like introduce me to Shania Twain wherever it was like a party trick. They would bring me along and I would like perform Shania Twain for everyone. So it's kind of a running joke in my family. And I think like I was able to really sit in that this morning and realize that like he would have been like that little kid would have been so like thrilled to know that I was like a musician singing like my own rendition of like a Shania Twain song. It was a really cool like full circle moment. I think it's super special, and I think that I owe a lot to like Shania Twain's catalog because my family like played it religiously. Shania Twain and Celine Dion on repeat probably for the first 10 years of my life because I was like, I demanded it. No matter, it's like if I was having a fit, you put on Shania Twain and I would behave. So my parents, it was like the modern day iPad was Shania Twain and Celine Dion for me. So I think that like as I built my musical taste and just like how I sing and how I take in music, it was based on those two catalogs specifically. So I really do owe a lot to those records because I think that they've led me down the path that I've been on for sure.
And what like amazing artists like grow up with too, like Celine Dion and Shania Twain.
Very Canadian, very Canadian.
I mean, as it should be, honestly.
Yes, 100%.
So growing up with like those like pop like influences and then being vocally trained for opera, I mean, how did those two merge?
So there was a big juxtaposition for sure in those early years because the car ride to vocal lessons and from vocal lessons, I was playing like pop music the whole time. And then I would be in vocal lessons singing like in Spanish and French and Italian. And like there was this interesting crossover where I finally like convinced my voice teacher that we could do the prayer, which was like kind of like pop opera, but like Celine Dion did that with Andrea Bocelli. And I was like, I get to sing Celine Dion. This is awesome. Um, so there was like a little mini crossover there, but I think that training classically really gave me the base of like everything that I do, and every time that I sing, it gave me like a base on how to sing healthy and how to sing properly and how to sing through a cold and all these different things. And I think that it gave me like a signature sound to my voice. Lots of people often say that I sound trained, which I take as a compliment. There was a bit of detraining as like I learned what my voice's Mathew V was as I
Mhm.
came into like my art and my songwriting. it was different from reading music on a page because that felt very much like the voice was just an instrument, like it was like a trumpet or a guitar. You had to perform what was given to you. And as I wrote my own music, I was realizing like I can kind of sing this however I want. And if it's not technically proper, like that's okay sometimes. So I had a lot of fun, but in figuring that out. But there was a few years of like actually dipping my toe in that water and seeing how far I could get. And I like to think that I think that now it's almost a bit too far that way, that if I had to go back to classical, I would have no clue what I'm doing anymore. But it definitely instilled some of my instincts for sure.
And do you remember that specific moment where you were like, "Oh, this is a thing. I could really like experiment with my voice and like experiment with how I sound."
Yeah, well, I think that I would find myself singing pop music and it would sound very classical. And I knew hearing it that I was like, this is not right. But I was so like, as I learned how to sing, it was like that's what it was. So um, I think that a lot of good singers that I look up to are really good imitators, and they're really good at accents. They're really good at impressions. And I think that I had a decent ear at that age that I was able to like listen to pop singers and try to imitate what they were doing. And then from there, I was able to be like, oh, well, I like this aspect of this voice and this aspect of this voice. Like, let me try to like build my own Frankenstein of what I want to sound like on my end. So I think that I definitely owe a lot of what my voice has turned into from, inspiration from a bunch of other artists.
Amazing. And with this track, you're covering "You're Still the One." So why was this track like so like intriguing to you to cover?
Absolutely. So growing up, notably, I would always say that I will never cover Celine Dion or like Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, and I'm not going to do it because whenever I would watch American Idol and I saw people cover those artists, I was like, "Don't do it. They're the best singers of all time. Just stay away. Just cover like sing someone who's a bad singer, and then you're going to sound so good." Because whenever I hear people sing Whitney Houston like Whitney Houston, I just hear Whitney Houston in my ear, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was hearing her sing it. So I was like, I'm never gonna do that. And then on my first record, I had this idea for "Always Be My Baby," and I was like, maybe it's okay if I completely change it up so it doesn't sound like her version. I'm like, it'll sound like a totally new thing, and people will just know the melody. And then I kind of got hooked on that, and I started chasing after songs from my favorite artists, which are always big singers. And so I'm definitely breaking all my rules by doing this, but I think that I'm changing up the songs enough that I'm not like trying to do Shania like Shania would, because I would be silly to even try that. But I chose "You're Still the One" because it was impossible for me to find a way to do "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" in a really stripped down version.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I was like, okay, I can't figure that one out. I can't crack that nut. I was sitting down with my collaborator Luca Fogali, who's an awesome artist. He's also nominated in my same category this year at the Junos. We worked together for years, and I was like, hey man, I'm batting through a few ideas. Like, which song speaks to you? Which one do you think that we could really, really nail? And when we were talking about "You're Still the One," he was just so flabbergasted by the first line. Like, he's always hit by the first line, which just looks like we made it. He's like, such a great way to start a song. He's like, we should just do that one and run with it. So it took a little while to get it exactly where we wanted it with the arrangement and everything, but I'm really happy with where it's at.
Amazing. And along with like this new single coming tomorrow, you're nominated for a Juno. I mean, Adult Contemporary Album of the Year for The Outer
Yeah.
Circle. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm feeling really, really good about it. It's been something like, maybe this is embarrassing, but I have like a little manifestation list on my phone of things that I want to happen at some point in my life. And I remind myself to look at it every month and like just talk this into existence, just like envision it. And being nominated for a Juno was definitely on there, and it was a really cool moment to be able to like check that off. I think that it's like it wasn't something that I saw happening for me for like years from now. So to have that happening now is such a cool moment, and to be nominated beside artists that I respect and some that I'm lucky enough to call friends is super cool. And I'm just really excited to have the experience and trying to like soak it all in as it happens. When I go next month, I want to make sure that like there's an equal balance of trying to document memories on my phone and then also taking it in person. So I'm going to try and smack my hand away and figure what that balance is. But yeah, it's a really cool experience. I'm really honored.
And with the manifestation thing, like, no, I do it all the time with like interviews. I want to be like people I want to interview this year. Like, and when I check it off, it's like, wow, like that really happened. So yeah, I
Yeah,
totally.
like we did that. Okay, so we're putting the Shania Twain energy out into the universe, and I'm manifesting that we're gonna bring that back. How about
Oh
that?
my God, all three of us just like talking to each other. There you
I
go.
love that.
Yeah. So I mean, Wow, congrats again. I'm super, super
Thank you.
excited to like hopefully see you win.
Fingers crossed.
So where were you when like you heard the news?
So I was on my way to New York. I knew that the nominations were happening that morning. I'd like set in like a notification on my calendar or whatever. But I typically in this like stuff like that, I've learned not to get your hopes up and like you just move on with your life. And so I wasn't like I didn't know if I was going to be able to watch it or not. And I boarded the plane to go to New York, and I got like a little like YouTube notification on my phone. It was like, "Oh, the Juno nomination live stream is happening right now," and the guy beside me is chatting my ear off about the vacation that he just took, and I'm trying to be respectful and like listened about his trip to Hawaii, which sounded awesome. And then in the corner of my eye, like I'm looking down at the screen, being like, "Okay, like there's a lot of speeches happening. The audio's cutting out. I'm like, the plane's starting to move. What's happening?" And then I see my buddy Luca's face pop up, and I'm like, "Oh, this! I think this is our category. Oh my God, Luca's nominated. I want to call him right now." And the guy is still talking to me. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's happening." And I looked down, and then I saw my face, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it happened!" And then I had a 5-hour flight with my phone on like airplane mode, where I couldn't do anything about it. Because like the first thing that you want to do is like call your family and like call your team and
Yeah.
the guys like, "This is so cool, it's happening." I just had to sit there with no internet service, and it was a nice moment because I got to like really celebrate it with myself and not be overwhelmed. Just like run to the phone and like send all these messages. I actually got to sit with it and really enjoy that moment for me, which was really cool. And then as soon as I landed, the chaos ensued, and I started calling and texting everyone, and it was a super emotional day, and it was an awesome moment, but could have been better timing for sure.
I mean, did the guy next to you know what was going on at all, or was he just like chatting about Hawaii the whole time?
So I squeezed one call into Luca right before the plane. Like the plane had probably already taken off, but that stays between anyone here. And I told Luca, I was like, "Hey man, we're both nominated for a Juno," and he had no clue. He was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then I saw when we landed, and I shouldn't even be eavesdropping, but I'm very bad with that. And I saw him Google Juno nomination. So I think he was wondering like what the deal was, because I mean, in turn, he was listening to my conversation. So I checked out his Google search. It's a 50-50 situation, but I think that he was a bit curious as to what was happening, which was funny. But yeah, honestly, at least he didn't chat my ear off about it for the 5-hour flight. He was he was quiet after that, which was nice. I got to kind of sit with myself.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could totally imagine that happening. I'd be just like, oh my God, no, I could not handle it. So, I mean, do you still find inspiration in grocery stores?
Okay, so I will find like inspiration in the most inopportune places. It hasn't been in a grocery store recently. I think it's because since the pandemic, I've just been trapped at home so much that I've like
Yeah.
have all this time to like process the ideas. Um, when I'm at home, I think that now that things are opening up again and I'm starting to travel a lot again, that I think I feel like it's going to come at those weird moments again where I'm going to start looking a bit strange, humming into my shirt or humming into my jacket. Um, or it always happens if I'm like in an Uber. It always happens in the back of an Uber, and then I'm trying to like the poor person is up front, like just minding their business, driving. There's no audio on, and then they hear me humming something like into my phone, like leaning into the corner as if that's gonna help. And I'm like humming this idea, and then playing it back. And I don't want to say anything like, "Hey, I'm just gonna start singing in your vehicle." So it's this unspoken, and he's like, "Oh no, what's happening?" And I'm like, "Don't look at me." So short of the long, absolutely, inspiration will strike at the most inopportune moments, no matter what is happening, and I just got to roll with it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you do you, you do you. I'm not a musician, but I could totally imagine just like being at the most random place and just like having the best idea ever.
And honestly, listening back half the time, I'm like humming so quiet in an Uber that I'm like, I can't even tell what's happening here. I'm like, we're just gonna have to start from scratch. So maybe I need to start singing louder in these public places. Maybe that's the problem. I'm sure that'll help. People will stare less if I'm singing louder.
Oh yeah, for sure, totally. And what's coming next for you musically? Because I think you're creating more music, right?
Yes, so there's a bunch of stuff coming out. This year has been a whirlwind for like a bunch of releases. I've done a bunch of collaborations. It kind of like was a really beautiful way to fill my time in the pandemic, and We have some more of those coming out, and we have some solo Mathew V singles for the summer, which I think will be really, really nice to get those out. It's been a little while since I've put out solo music and music that feels like this, so I think it'll be super fun for summer. And then we're working on we're just starting a project for the fall and winter, or sometime like that next year. That's like super different for me. I don't think I can say too much about it, but like it's definitely a big risk. And I think that it might surprise some people to kind of hear that coming from me. And it's so far, it's so fun and super fulfilling. So I think that that's going to fill my summer in the studio, but I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be amazing.
Thank you.
No problem. So my last question for you is, who are your favorite artists right now?
Who are my favorite artists right now? Okay, well, I'm not going to give the basics because I can talk about Celine Dion and Shania Twain all day. But I think it's like your blog is so wonderful at like discovering like new artists and like up and coming artists and like new talent. And I think that I should pinpoint some of those. Because let me go to my playlist, because that's going to be like the most realistic moment of what I'm listening to every day. I will say that I just had a session with an artist named Nick Wilson, who is amazing, out of the UK. Such a treat for me to work with him. I found Nick because Demi Lovato mentioned that they were listening to Nick over and over again. I was like, oh my God, that must be so cool for this artist. Who is this person? And I realized that he was in my like related artists on Spotify for like the last 3 years, and I think vice versa. His new song "Loving You" is so good. I would highly recommend everyone check that out. Nick Wilson. Who else have I been listening to recently? There's a wonderful artist named Victoria Anthony, who I just co-wrote her new single, "Kinda Into You." I might be biased, but I think that it's awesome. Her whole catalog is awesome, and she's like 16 years old, which blows my mind, because to see the artistic integrity and the conviction and like the star power. And I think back to when I was 16 and I was like, I was studying for like homework and like singing YouTube covers in my bathroom of Justin Bieber with a backwards hat. Like it was not the same level. So getting context on that is super, super impressive. Victoria Anthony, she's amazing. And what else have I been listening to here? Danielle Ryan is an awesome new country artist out of BC. BC has a lot of good country, actually, which is really, really cool. So those are 3 that I would recommend right now to start off with. But yeah, thank you for doing what you do in like elevating new voices and talent. And I think that it's super special. So thank you for doing what you do best. So thanks.
Oh my God, no! Thank you for chatting me, and thank you for creating such beautiful music.
Oh, that's so sweet. I appreciate it. I'm sure my mom called you and told you to say that. She's like, he really needs that, please. But no, thank you so much for your time and for your kind words, and for your thoughtful questions.